War is a terrible business. It chews up lives and spits out sorrow. But for some, it is not a tragedy. It is a trade. It is a game played on a board of nations, with people as pawns. In the years leading up to the 10th War, there was a whisper of such a player, a ghost in the machine of conflict. They called him the Ranger. No one knew his face, his country, or his name. He was a shadow, a puppeteer pulling strings from a place no one could find. His profit was not in gold or land, but in chaos itself. He believed that order was a lie, and that only through constant struggle could humanity truly find its strength or its end. He was a philosopher with a sword, and the world was his unwilling student. The Ranger did not command armies with a loud voice. He did not lead charges on a white horse. His weapons were far quieter and far more deadly. He used stories. He planted rumors like seeds in the fertile soil of fear and suspicion. He would whisper a lie in the ear of a diplomat in the West, and at the same time send a coded message to a general in the East. He spoke of ancient grievances, of insults long forgotten. He made neighbors who had shared bread for generations look at each other with narrowed eyes. It was a slow poison dripping into the heart of the continent, turning trust to dust and peace to a distant memory. He was a master of the human heart, knowing just where to press to make it break. His greatest trick was the use of symbols. He resurrected old emblems, flags, and crests that had not been seen for 100 years. A mark of a forgotten clan would be painted on a temple wall. A sigil of a defeated kingdom would appear on the border posts of a nervous nation. These symbols were ghosts from the past, reminders of old wars and bitter defeats. They stirred up a pride that had long been sleeping, and with it, a hatred that had never truly died. The Ranger knew that a simple picture could be more powerful than 1,000 swords. It could call to something deep within people, something primal and fierce. And so the stage was set for the 10th War, all according to a plan no one even knew existed. The world, blind to the strings being pulled, stumbled towards the precipice. Leaders gave grand speeches, their voices filled with a fire that was not their own. They spoke of destiny, of honor, of threats that were born in the Ranger's shadowy imagination. Young men and women signed up to fight for causes they barely understood, their hearts filled with a righteous fury lit by a distant, unseen hand. The first shots were not a surprise. They were an inevitability. The Ranger watched from afar as the first cities burned, as the first soldiers fell. The performance had begun, and the world would bleed for his amusement. The first act of his terrible play was over, and the curtain was rising on the tragedy of war. We were sent to the city of Altdorf with promises of a swift victory. They told us the enemy was weak, disorganized. We were the Wolves, the best squad in the Northern Regiment, and we believed them. We marched into the city as the first snow of winter began to fall, our breath turning to white clouds in the freezing air. The streets were silent, unnervingly so. It felt like walking into a painting, beautiful and still. But there was a wrongness to the silence. It was the quiet of a hunter holding its breath. We moved through the empty squares, our boots crunching on the thin layer of ice, a sound that seemed terribly loud in the dead air. Our captain, a good man named Valerius, kept us alert, his hand always near his pistol. The ambush came without a sound of warning. There was no battle cry, no whistle of incoming shells. One moment we were advancing down a wide avenue lined with frozen statues. The next, the world exploded in fire and white noise. The snow around us erupted as shots rang out from the high windows of the stone buildings. Men I had shared breakfast with that morning fell without a cry, their warmth staining the pure white snow a terrible, dark red. We scrambled for cover, our training kicking in, but we were caught in a perfect trap. The enemy was invisible, hidden in the shadows of the grand architecture, and their aim was deadly. We were pinned down, the cold biting at our exposed skin as fiercely as the bullets whittling away at our cover. Captain Valerius was a brave man. Too brave, perhaps. He saw the panic starting to set in, the fear in the eyes of the younger soldiers. He stood up from behind a shattered fountain to rally us, to give us a direction, a focus for our fight. "To me, wolves. To me," he roared, his voice cutting through the chaos. It was the last thing he ever said clearly. A single shot found him, and he crumpled to the ground, a dark stain spreading across his chest. We pulled him back behind the stone, but the damage was done. His eyes were glazed with pain, and his breath came in ragged, shallow gasps. He tried to speak, but only a bloody froth came from his lips. The heart of our squad had been ripped out. That was when the fear truly took hold. It was a cold deeper than the winter air. With our captain down, we were just a scattered group of terrified men, leaderless and surrounded. The disciplined unit we had been just minutes before had vanished. I looked at the faces around me, boys barely old enough to shave, their eyes wide with the horror of it all. Someone had to do something. Someone had to take charge. I saw the captain look at me, a desperate plea in his dying eyes. I was Rod, just a corporal, just one of the lads. But in that moment, with the bullets flying and the snow falling on my dying captain, I knew I had to be more. I had to become the leader they needed, or we would all die here, frozen and forgotten in this silent white city. "We have to move," I said, my voice sounding strange to my own ears. It was shaky, but loud enough to be heard over the gunfire. "We stay here, we die. Grab the captain, we're falling back." The words came out before I had time to think about them. The others looked at me, their faces a mixture of doubt and desperation. But there was no other voice giving orders. There was only the sound of the enemy and the moans of our wounded. Two of the men, Kyle and Borin, gently lifted Captain Valerius. We began our retreat, a desperate scramble from one piece of broken cover to the next. The city was a maze of death. Every corner could hide an enemy. Every shadow could hold a threat. The grand avenues were now killing fields we had to cross. We moved through the ruined streets like rats in a collapsed cellar. The ornate buildings of Altdorf, once symbols of pride and prosperity, were now our enemies. Their high windows were nests for snipers, their alleys perfect for ambushes. We learned to hug the walls, to stay in the shadows, to move in short, sharp bursts. The city was no longer silent. It was filled with echoes. The distant rattle of machine gun fire, the lonely crack of a sniper's rifle, the unsettling groan of stressed metal from a burning tram, and whispers. The wind carried whispers, or perhaps it was just our fear playing tricks on us. It felt as if the ranger himself was watching, his unseen eyes following our every step, enjoying our struggle. That's when we found him. Huddled in the doorway of a bombed-out bakery was a man. He wasn't a soldier. He wore the simple, dark clothes of a civilian, but he had a strange stillness about him. His face was thin and pale, and his eyes were a startlingly light gray, seeming to see everything at once. He didn't seem scared, which was the oddest thing of all. He simply watched us approach, his expression unreadable. He called himself Fen. He said he was a scholar, trapped in the city when the fighting began. He knew the old ways, the forgotten paths through the sewers and the service tunnels. He offered to guide us to safety, to the river on the far side of the city. We were desperate, and his calm confidence was like a lifeline. We had no choice but to trust him. With Fen leading the way, we plunged deeper into the city's broken heart. He guided us through places our maps didn't show, narrow alleys choked with rubble, and the basements of collapsed department stores. The man was a ghost, moving with a quiet purpose that unsettled me. He knew the city too well for a simple scholar. He seemed to know which streets would be watched and which bridges would be weak. Suspicion began to grow in my mind, a small, cold knot in my gut. Why was he here? How did he survive? But we followed him all the same. He was our only hope of getting out of this frozen hell. And so we put our lives in the hands of a stranger, a man who seemed to belong to the shadows themselves. Our path led us to the Iron Tooth Bridge, a skeletal structure of rusted steel that spanned a deep, frozen canal. Fenn told us it was the only way across this part of the city. The main bridges were all heavily guarded or destroyed. This one was old, forgotten, and treacherous. A biting wind howled through its iron girders, threatening to tear us from the narrow walkway. Below us, the canal was a sheet of dark, ugly ice, littered with the debris of the fighting. We had to cross one by one, the metal groaning under our weight. Each step was a prayer. We carried Captain Valerius between us, his life a fragile flame we were trying to shield from the wind. It was slow, terrifying work. The fear in the squad was a tangible thing. It was in the way the men avoided looking down, the way their knuckles were white as they gripped the frozen guardrail. And the suspicion was growing stronger, aimed squarely at our guide. Fenn moved across the bridge with an unnatural ease, as if he were taking a stroll in a park. He seemed untroubled by the height or the wind. Kyle, a big man with a naturally distrustful nature, muttered to me as we waited our turn to cross. "I don't like him, Rod," he whispered, his breath a plume of white. "He's too calm. It's like he knows what's going to happen, like he's been here before." I felt it too. There was a coldness to Fenn that had nothing to do with the winter air. The betrayal, when it came, was as sudden and sharp as the sniper's bullet that had felled our captain. We were halfway across the bridge. I was near the front with Fenn, while Cale and Borin were in the middle, carrying the captain. Suddenly Fenn stopped. He turned, and for the first time, I saw an expression on his face. It was a faint, cruel smile. He raised a hand, and from the far side of the bridge, a hidden machine gun opened up, its fire raking across the walkway. It wasn't aimed at us at the front. It was aimed at the men behind. The bullets tore through the metal, sending sparks flying into the gloom. Borin screamed and fell, his body tumbling over the side into the darkness below. Chaos erupted on the bridge. Kyle, with a roar of fury, shoved the captain into the arms of the man behind him and charged towards Fenn. He saw the truth in that moment, the same truth that was dawning on me with icy horror. Fenn was not a survivor. He was a lure. He had led us here into this perfectly designed trap. He was one of them, or worse, he worked for someone else entirely, someone who played both sides. The scholar was a spy, a traitor who had walked among us, sharing our path only to lead us to our deaths. The bridge was not a path to safety. It was an executioner's block, and we had walked onto it willingly. The real enemy had been with us all along. Kyle was a brave fool. He charged at Fenn with nothing but his rage, and Fenn simply sidestepped him. The big soldier's momentum carried him forward, right into the stream of bullets from the machine gun. He fell, his charge ending in a brutal, final stillness on the iron walkway. We were trapped. The gunner on the far side had us pinned, and behind us, more enemy soldiers were appearing at the entrance to the bridge. We were caught between two fires. Fenn stood there, watching us, his pale eyes glinting. "The ranger sends his regards," he said, his voice calm and clear over the din. "He is disappointed. He expected a better performance." The name hit me like a physical blow. The ranger, the ghost. This was all his doing. There was only one way to go. Down, into the canal, I yelled, pointing to the frozen surface below. "It's our only chance." It was madness. A fall from that height could kill us, and the icy water would finish the job if the fall didn't. But it was better than being cut to pieces on the bridge. I fired my rifle at Fenn, not to hit him, but to make him duck. Then I grabbed the edge and vaulted over the side. One by one, the remaining men of my squad followed, a desperate plunge into the freezing dark. We hit the ice with bone-jarring force. It shattered beneath us, and the black, shockingly cold water swallowed us whole. The cold was a physical pain, stealing our breath and paralyzing our limbs. We surfaced, gasping in the blackness beneath the bridge. The gunfire was muffled above us. Fenn had shown us the tunnels, and I prayed he hadn't lied about everything. I found an opening in the canal wall, a large arched sewer entrance just as he had described. We scrambled inside, dragging a still unconscious Captain Valerius with us. The tunnel was pitch black and filled with waist-deep, foul-smelling water. We were alive, but we were in a new kind of hell. We waded through the darkness, our hands on the slimy brick walls, the water sucking at our legs. We had lost good men. We had been betrayed. And we had learned that our enemy was not just the soldiers we fought, but a shadowy game player who saw us as nothing more than pieces on a board. Hours later, we saw a faint light, a grate. We pushed it open and crawled out into the quiet dawn of a new day, on the safe side of the river. We had survived. We had escaped the trap. We got the captain to a field hospital and he lived. We had made it back. But as we sat there, wrapped in blankets, I couldn't feel any sense of victory. I thought of Fenn's words. The ranger sends his regards. We had survived his little game this time, but the game wasn't over. Far away in some safe, warm room, the ranger was still pulling his strings, still starting fires just to watch them burn. We had fought soldiers, but the real enemy remained untouched, unseen, and ready to play again. The war was his, and we were just the unwilling actors in his terrible show.